Yeah, let me check.
Nope.
Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Monday, June the 14th, 2021. And I'm so pleased to say that I have the Gal Pal Posse in the house. Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. Boy, we haven't been together for a while,
I
ladies.
know.
And certainly not during the day. This is an extra treat because we get to have BZ during daylight hours for
All
us, at
right.
least. Right? Yeah. So, as you'll tell by the title, BZ actually came with this time sort of a title and a concept. And I heard, I think the fleshing out of it, which I think was really cool. BZ mentioned Star Trek and it was off to the races for me. So anything created outside the neutral zone is a no-go. And that is exactly the way I heard it in my head when we started discussing the title. And it makes a lot of sense. But I want to hear what first of all, BZ, what brought this forward for you? And then share with us your thoughts about why this came forward now and what you're thinking and feeling about it. If you don't mind, I'll get you to start off for us today.
Well, what brought it forward is that I've been going through a lot of, I think the simplest way to say it is training of my own for new things that are going on, training from a linear, training from a multidimensional, and experiencing and working through putting that into practice in all different levels for big things that are coming for me. And all of that, of course, has been going on since January 1st, but more and more it's getting heightened, and the energies have been in this area, in this frequency, and in this absolute lock frequency, I think is a good way to say it, for 4 months anyways, going on 5 months. So that's kind of the why. That's the why, and being able to test it and do different things with it. You know, if you're doing experiments or you're wanting to prove yourself or proving to yourself or proving to your soul, those kinds of things, it comes around very quickly. So it's very easy to go from, yeah, that sounds good, feels good, and then not doing it, and then wondering why it's not working, to being fierce about making sure, and we'll go on, play with all this stuff as we go through the conversation, but being fierce about doing it all the time, intentionally, from the very beginning of each moment. And how quickly you see that as an incredible amplifier and helper for your creational force abilities. Even if things, as the metaphor I was using before camera was, the train, falls right off the track and blows up, and it can happen right away, you look upon that as a terrific thing, because it's like, okay, stop, do your thing again, and that the train wreck mess dematerializes and you're right back on track again, rather than putting a lot of time and effort, maybe synchronicities or maybe things are happening, and because it was not, just like with anything in contracts or the legal system or the linear system or the banking system, anything born of a fraud, right, will not stand. It's along that same kind of concept. So if you can frame that, and you have that full-throated, wholehearted entrainment with that, and you're doing this all the time, and you do it intentionally all the time, and you're fluffing it up, resetting it, enhancing it throughout the day all the time. If you do have a moment where the train falls off the track and blows up, you go, cool, right? Because for whatever reason you got sidetracked or this or that or the other thing, and you can fix it, as opposed to being a little annoyed that this is something, well, you have to actually be intentional, or you have to actually work through it, or you actually have to be in charge of captaining your own ship, 100% all the time, instead of being, getting fussy about that, you look at that as a huge gift. So, anyways, that's how it came about. And why now? Why now? Um, because it's not subtle anymore. Because it's absolute now, and because we're in the spot where in the 0 point and being in that, this is what we're all asked to do. We're not in a place where we're thinking about waking up. We're not in a place where we're thinking about stepping into our own mastery of how to wield and um, work with our abilities. We're there, and the whole bringing down the very last bits of bringing down and unwinding the unbinding of the false matrix needs us all to stand up and do that, not as the main focus but as the completion focus. The main focus is the main thrust of our agreement to and being asked of again to take it even further is creating everything brand new. And this is the only way that we can do it. So it's in playing, since what I've been trained to do and what I'm working on for myself in my own life, which will go out, and involve lots of other beings. Some I know and some I have no idea because I haven't met them yet. Um, that will this needs is part of that. So it's an, I guess you could say it's a need is accurate. It is an essential ingredient is accurate. It's the only way it works is super accurate. And since that's what we're in the process of right now of is creating the new, because there's no support for and ability for and platform for and pathway for just bringing the old down and then going, okay, well, now what do we do? They don't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Nature pours a vacuum, so we don't want to. And more to the point, since the whole point of waking everyone in various stages waking up to this and having taken, as our in our journey away from source, going forth to no source, all the way out to the furthest, darkest, deepest, gnarliest, unimaginably not so great, yeah, with an accent aigu with a bird there, I know, away from source, was to wake up and fully integrate that, not shy away from it, right? But to fully integrate that, to never, ever, ever needing to be done ever again. And I mean in eternity, ever again. Right? Not just a little today or tomorrow, but right. And part of this doing that, you an accurate way to say this is nature pours a vacuum. So you don't want to have a vacuum where something is not coming up, the brand new is being built, because in that space, it won't stand, right? But in that space is an opportunity for, again, depending on your language, you could say the Illuminati, you could say the Cabal, you could say the Deep State, you could say, the nefarious, whatever you want to say. They all would be accurate in various levels, wider apertures, to come in and come up with something for a very short term for that space. So we want to avoid all of that.
Well, when you first brought this up, I felt into it for a second, and I didn't see anything in my own personal life at first, and then as you were speaking there just now, I saw a whole bunch of different things in my own life. So yeah, and candy chief among them, actually.
Yes.
So it would be fair to categorize the neutral zone as also okay. So we've talked a lot about 0 point, and um, I also want to say it's more of a the frequency neighborhood that you wish to reside in
Well,
some.
it's
Yes.
well, it's more than that. Yes, in a narrow aperture. It's more than that because 0 point is that triangulation, that trinity, that apex of frequency neighborhoods that that's the field of creation because it's
That
resides
trumps
between
neighborhoods.
what.
It trumps neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's the kick-ass, because what it does is it triangulates where you are. So if you're listening to this, okay, well, not everybody because they're not all on the planet, but most people are listening to this on the planet. So it's the frequency of Gaia, right? What that combines, and it's the frequency of source. And this is most important, which people I think a lot of times forget. It's the frequency of you. So your wholeness, your completeness, your soul, it aligns those and puts in a triangulation or a trinity of those three things. And when it is you, it's you in your expansiveness, it's you in your imploding into you-ness, right? And when that happens, it is the creational point frequency neighborhood. It is the zone of all things, no things, pre-matter template things, right? And yes, your desires of which, as you had said, the narrow aperture, the frequency neighborhood in which you wish to reside. But it is a place that incorporates the whole, the soup of source, with your bigger frequency, which is the place where you live, which is Gaia, which is the frequency itself, and then you.
Well,
Yeah,
wouldn't
can I
it?
say something?
Yes, please do.
I would describe it this way to add to what build on what BZ is saying there is you have when you're in alignment in the fashion that she's speaking of here, you now have as an individual, as a sovereign individual, you have and wield the power of all that is
Yes.
through the vehicle and can manipulate and create at will. Because we're creating all the time, make no mistake about it. Whether you are creating consciously or unconsciously is where you have to decipher, find out where you are. And if it's not where you wish to be, then align with where you wish to be.
Right. Yes, and absolutely beautiful. And beyond that, so to clarify that even more, is where you wish to be. And if it isn't already default going there, in that triangulation of that 0 point zone, which, so if you're wielding your conductor and you're conducting your symphony of life, right? You're conducting your experiences, you're painting. You could be literally painting as an artist or something, but you're creating all that when you're in this space. And we play with how to get there and how to stay there and how to intentionally script it, right? And you do need to work at it. So that's part of being a light worker. That's part of actually what you're for yourself here to do, and what you're here to do for your contribution to the all. So when you're in that space, as Lisa talked about, you're in alignment with that, and you're intentionally navigating and creating from, and wielding your artistic inspired wherewithal from that. And it's whatever you are, whatever you're doing. So you could be a mechanic, you could be a musician, doesn't matter, because it's all creational force. But when you're in that and you're thinking, oh, I need to find, maybe you're doing something with a business that you're creating, and I need to find a resource to do X, Y, or Z. When you're in that and you give voice to that, then you have then set off your whole team, or your all of your connective resources of creation, that will be magnetized to you. So you will get different resources. You will, all of a sudden you'll get an email or a call, or someone will say, hey, I just saw something or other, or and it comes into seeing, and you can choose. You may get a couple different options, but what I'm saying is all of that comes to you. So your crayon box of this masterpiece that you're drawing, your paint box, your canvas stretchers, just using the artistic type metaphor, right? The easel builders, and you get a tour of how to go and make chalk pastels, and how they do all the natural ingredients for all the pigments, for all the colors. All of that comes to you, and then you choose from it. And it's not just in your local neighborhood, it's globe wide, Gaia wide, and it's universal wide. So anything that may not have heretofore been in creation yet will come into creation and come into your sphere of influence, wielding, and mastery, to then incorporate all of that into where you're playing. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I've just, as you're speaking there, I was being shown different snippets, if you will, of my growth and expansion since hanging out with the two of you guys, and well, having the channel and these conversations in toto, and and seeing how even now in the more expansive spot that I find myself, that it is still not habit, if you will, to bring all of me to the fore when doing things. Now I'm getting better at it, and I'm and not just bringing all of me, but then giving an example, I've really stepped up my exercise regimen. Okay, and I do it like that because I got my own little thing I do, and it might not look like exercise to everybody else, but it is exercise nonetheless. And so because I'm pulling that in, and I'm watching myself, I'm observing myself bringing more of me to that activity. And what I mean by that is being very conscious and very specific about what I'm doing, feeling my breath, following my breath into my muscles, speaking to my body. Oh, and and exploding light within my vessel as I do. So very, very specific, very intentional, very conscious, very present. And when you were speaking just now, I was shown that, and how that I'm getting a little bit better at, but it's not, innate yet, right? And I don't think it is for any of us. I mean, maybe some folks that have been practicing it, like the two of you guys, and maybe others that have practiced this way of life a bit. But for myself,
can I just say something here?
Yes,
I think
please.
it is innate. It is innate. We have habitualized ourselves to ignoring our innate, to putting it in the background as inconsequential and not required, and that everything external is where the focus is required. So I just want to say that, because we have spent a great deal of time ignoring our innate knowing.
No, I guess you're right. Maybe I'm not using the proper word, but when I said innate, I mean it's not something that I automatically do
Because it's
every
Right.
time.
unconscious, because
Not
you're
default.
unconscious about it.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm doing it on, you're right.
Right.
You're on autopilot.
Yes.
You're not thinking, you're not
What I was
tuned in, you're
talking about.
not turned on, you're not,
No.
I mean, it's all of what everybody's been saying here, but maybe I think what the
Yes.
two of you are looking for, you honed in. It's simply being unconscious about it. I have to
Yes.
go to work. I put
Hmm.
on my clothes, I, kind of
Letting
zombify, have one
programs
eyeball
run.
open, and I go out to work, and I get there. Yeah, okay, I'll do right, and
well, and
there's no
constantly the whole
consciousness
time,
about it. It's
right,
just,
and
just
right, no
unpilot.
consciousness, no, like you were talking about pre-paving, which I really didn't understand until I started hanging out with you guys either, which all goes into, for me now I see very clearly, of bringing all of me and all of the focus right here where where I can actually do something with it, and and be um conscious about it. But okay, so you said autopilot, right? Well, that's because that's what we've programmed ourselves. It's an autopilot sort of thing. So now I really am trying to program myself a different way. As we've talked about that before, right? That deprogram and then reprogram ourselves. But that's what I was shown. I wanted to share that as you were speaking, that's what I was sort of shown about myself, is that, and so even though I'm putting my focus and attention there, I'm finding that it's still not carried over. I'm just noticing, and
Yeah.
that I still don't carry it over to everything. Now it's starting to, in differing ways. I'm noticing where I'm paying closer conscious right here attention to me, what I speak, to me, what I do, all that sort of thing. But so I wanted to share that because as you were speaking there, that's what I was being shown.
And I have,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, and the more you notice like that, like what you're doing there, that's so important, the noticing, because I've noticed the more I notice, the more I notice. And the more I notice, the harder it is to be unconscious. So I think consistency is the biggest helper for me to reset that. Because, like we were saying, automatic pilot happens because we've got a default set point and we're
Right.
just flowing with it, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless it's at a point that you don't enjoy experiencing, which, is where I found myself. And in focusing instead on what Sheila was talking about there, setting my defaults consciously, right? And once I did that, it like really created an avenue for my awareness of taking consciousness with me. Like I couldn't get to even where I am today all at once because I was so unconscious that I think it was an impossibility. Like I had to just begin by noticing what I wasn't noticing. And then I just kind of dealt with what I notice now, right? What is revealing itself to me in this moment and working with that juicy stuff until it stops coming up, and then I know in this particular whatever, I have effectively changed my set point, my default, meaning when I don't have to work that hard to consciously have it here. It just resides here. And I would notice it missing immediately.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that.
it's both of what you were just talking about. I just made some notes so they didn't float out into the ethers. But um, to me, this is very exciting if one can even just be present to play with it, because then as you play with it more, you can watch it play with you, and the deliciousness and the divinity and the creative spark that ensues when you play with it and it plays with you is astonishingly beautiful and surprising and rewarding and influencing in the best sense of what it gives out and gives forth to the all is magnificent. And Sheila and I, a moment ago, when you and I were talking on that, it came when you were talking about what you were about the innate and all that. Um, Videos came in, and it really drove home the new business that I'm starting, and how it's coming to lay out. It actually is the recipe for just this. I was thinking, well, it's going to be this and that, and it came very clear right this moment, and that is living life. What it is living life in HD. So it's heart centric, soul inspired,
Yep.
service focused, and consciousness expanding in every moment. And then
Well,
Lisa,
I hope you got that written down, because boy, that's a hell of a tagline.
it is. It's
All
there.
right.
But I'm saying I'd already created it. It just has come forth full circle as a way of living and creating, and what the business is all about, to support and guide and help others do. And Lisa, you were talking about, setting your default, not we all have defaults. Notice that, recognize that, then setting your new default setting that you want. And one of the things so the set point, and that's so absolutely just is. And in these energies, in what I'm talking about of anything not create anything created outside of the neutral zone. So you are always expanding, always have been, but now even more, it's heightened to an even greater point. So if you have not been doing what Lisa was, she wasn't just speaking about it, she was emitting the whole and emoting the whole picture of what that feels like. So if you haven't been doing that heretofore, that's going to be a dramatic change. Now you take that even a step further in these energies that I'm talking about now, and they're not going backwards, they're just going to hyper accelerate more and more and more, right? So it's not your set point in the new frequency vibrational neighborhood that you wish to reside, because
Right.
it's done, one and done, never really held. It sure as heck doesn't hold now. And you're setting your set point every day, minimum every day, once a day you're set,
Every
because
moment.
you are not only are expanding and changing every moment, but if you set it there, by the end of this one day or the next day, you're light years, that set point is now light years behind who you are, the truth of who you are, your wielding capability, your mastery capability, and you've actually boxed yourself into an old box that was only old by a day or two, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things, and this is not an external, I'm feeling really nudged to highlight this one point here. This is not an external set point. This is not a
No.
external reference point for mastery. It's your own. It may be collaboratively influenced or collaboratively inspired, popping, like popcorn ideas popping, inspired popping, come forth, but it's from you moving forward. And so, since you're the one who is the captain of everything and wielding the mastery in a masterful way of what it is that you are doing, creating, being, right? You need to show up and captain it every moment, and
Well,
set a direction, set a focus, set a
Conscious.
template, and a setting could be the default setting for maybe that 1 hour, 24 hour ish segment, and then you do it again. And
Well,
you can
Can I say
have,
this too?
yes,
Oh.
go ahead, Lisa.
I'm feeling like also, so when I use the terminology of frequency set point, it's really important to me to say this. There are only two frequency set points that I'm referring to, and that is in the neutral zone or outside of the neutral zone, right? And by default, I found myself automatically going out of the zone to deal with stuff, or to entertain a solution of any kind. Okay, that was my frequency default set point. And so it took, and it is still taking, I can't say it is complete because it is not, but it's taking my full attention. I could say that for sure. But because I'm now making it my full-time job, monitoring my set point. Now, when I leave the set point, like BZ was saying earlier, you feel that your train goes off the rails. And the only thing that will bring it in is to consciously go back to the set point that I wish to broadcast from, create from, find solutions from, live from. Because see, then I got into the habit also, this is another noticing, that I only worried about my frequency set point when the train was clearly off the track. And so I was having many such opportunities.
Because the train had already left the station. No, no,
Yeah,
no way to make
right?
sure that the wheels were really on the track.
But
well,
now
it's
I am
helpful for
noticing,
putting out the fire, so yeah.
yeah, and just on an encouraging note, I must say I have caught myself as of recently, in the crisis moment, instead of jumping to the old frequency set point of jumping outside of my neutrality now and into some problem solving, oh my goodness, I've got issues mode, I am staying in my sacred neutrality, or going there if I'm feeling a waffle at all, almost immediately.
Yeah.
And I have to
I'm
say
trying really
that the more I do that, because I can see now I've seen, how it works out when I do this other program. And now I'm actually having data that I can look at to compare how it goes when I don't ever engage in that, when my default jumps me straight into neutrality and I don't at all play with any kind of train wrecks. And the most beautiful thing here I have discovered recently is, because I'm not wasting any of my, let's just say, currency, my energy doesn't get spent on jumping trains or fixing train tracks or anything like that. I find that, okay, so I'm going right to solution energies immediately. And I'm finding now that the plethora of solution energies are pretty exciting. And it's almost like I just kind of want to swim around in that, do I want to go over there? That looks fantastical. Or how about, I've never, like, I'm getting into this whole talk about controlling time, right? But playing with potential outcomes. Like, now I've done this before in tragedies, right? Near death experiences have turned this on for me. But what's really cool is being in your sacred neutral will also activate these moments for you, because you're not busy, I don't know, swimming for my life. Perhaps has freed up this, all of a sudden I can see what was right before me, like I just want to start clapping my ruby heels together and say there's no place like home. And I think that that's really more in working with these energies and creating in the new way, right? Is to not even engage the old programs, jump right into what do I do with this and make it fantastical. Because my life feels really fantastical right now, I have to say. And you guys are a part of what makes it so fantastical on the daily. So thank you.
Well, well, you already know how I feel about all of that for both of you as well, and you in particular, Lisa. Being right here in the same household with me, this has been
Right. That's easy for us.
so awesome to have this sort of well, just this sort of thing. That was what I was going to say about earlier when BZ was speaking, and then now that you've actually said what you've said, Lisa, too. When so for me, I because you said this to me early on, Lisa, about and one of the reasons why I constantly say one must keep oneself open. If you're not open to seeing where you're not in the right set point, or whatever it is for yourself,
Yeah, however you want to talk about it.
right?
Although
However,
it's pretty obvious right this moment is a
right. Well, but well, you would think that it would be pretty obvious, yes. But there are those who still don't see that it's their own machinations or lack of being open or lack of staying in that sort of that there, because there's still a lot of that going on out there
Yes,
is
but the burning building nonetheless is obvious. Whether or not
true,
you're the one who's
true, but
the
and I also
creator
want
of
to
it.
right, and I also
When
want to
your
offer
foot's
this.
on fire, you know it, and you when it dawns on you that you can never light the fire, then it's really happiness.
Well, so but it's not an easy thing when you're not used to it,
It
but
takes work. Yes.
it does take work. And if you are at least open to that and knowing, like I said, that I've shared, and I'm sure that there are those that will be viewing this that are saying, yeah, you promised a candy update and it hasn't come, because yeah, that's right in my field right now. This whole conversation is very much in my field, because I don't want, did not, have not wished to go, and it started from before. This is this sort of the same thing as it was before, even why this whole thing has gone. So we're into almost 7 months now with Candy, because I got her in December.
Wow.
We're in June. Okay, and so, but I didn't and don't wish to create from outside that neutral zone, outside of that. So when things present that look like they and with my tendency to step outside that neutral zone, I just rather step back and not do anything and just it's not a suppression, it's not an oppression, it's
No,
it's a
it's a
taking a
choice.
beat.
Well, it's a choice, and also from that choice, one can create, which is what I've been focusing on, and having to learn and being trained from the the more expansive part of me to do it, and then having to choose, to go, yeah, I can see how that would be a whole heck of a lot better. Yeah, sign me up, right? So it's been it's nothing put on me. It's a choosing to. Um, so there, what you were talking about there, Sheila, of not wanting to create that, so holding off, excellent. But there are also ways to, again, if it's a choice point, to move forward and create those things where the muscles are stronger in being in the 0 point. The muscles are stronger. What I'm talking about are where you're setting that tone intentionally and you're doing it every day. It may not be today, but it may be tomorrow, and it may be just for an hour here. But what you accomplish, even if it doesn't look like you're doing anything, right? You could be banging things up or
You're
stitching
right.
things together, right? But what you accomplish in that hour is weeks and months long,
Oh yeah.
because it's not only, like you're hammering on, today I'm hammering on this thing, because I'm going to hold it up on candy, right? Because what you're doing is the structure in which you're creating and your multidimensional capability and abilities, including your higher self. So all of that, your guides, however you want to range it, and it's very specific and inclusive, angels, all sorts of things. And people will do it whatever their language is. It could be totems, it could be all sorts of things, right? It's not focused on just a thing. It's whatever your frame is that you're wielding, right? And from your perspective. But you have then put that all out there to work for you. So I'll go real linear for a minute. Maybe you have your own personal assistants, and you've got 3 of your own personal assistants, and you've got personal shoppers, and you've got um, you, if you want to have to do anything in the linear where there's paperwork or there's forms that have to fill out, or if you're thinking really linear in the old world, business licensing and any of that kind of stuff. So if you were starting a new business and you're changing where your residence is and how you live, and you're changing your whole routine as far as health and diet and eating and exercise. And so basically every area of your life, you're changing it all, right?
Mhm.
And so then it would be helpful if you had, I'm talking purely based linear right now, a team, someone who could, because you're losing weight, or you're gaining more muscles or whatever it is. And so it would be helpful if you had some people to help you. Well, hey, those, you need some clothes that fit, or you need a personal assistant that's taking care of appointments for this, or setting up appointments for interviews that you're doing in your business, or whatever else it is, right? So I'm just trying to make it very tangible, linear. If you had a resources and teams and people who were in place that you trusted implicitly, and that actually were so intuitive, they knew the right directions and the greater sense of what works, what has a high light quotient, what flows, what will be successful for what it is that you see as the highest and best, most delicious, really, oh, that's even more fantastical than I had thought about. That would be sort of cool, right? If you had a whole team that would go and do those different things and then sit down and bring you those different resources, those different suggestions, those different scenarios, those different possibilities, and the timing of all of that. This is what I'm actually talking about from a linear, realistic, tangible, materialized, come to fruition, to use enough words that everybody's brain will in some way get what I'm talking about. You've
Mhm.
now attracted to you. And it could be that maybe you're not building a business, you're taking a new job or something like that. So what I'm talking about is, if you are outside of the neutral zone, none of that will happen. And
Right.
absolutely, period, full stop. And right now, everyone, whether they know it or not, they understand it or not, they believe it or not, and they are consciously doing it or not, you are creating everything brand new in your field, in your life, in your being. Why? Because the old you does not exist anymore. In fact, the you from a week ago does not exist anymore, because the rate and hyper acceleration of your expansion, of your changing everything in your cellular structure, everything in your field, every memory and way that you view things is all disappearing, and building anew. One partial accurate way to describe that would be to your original template of an organic human, and your abilities and your possibilities and your potentialities. That's only partially accurate, because yes, you're kind of resetting into that container of vast, delicious, right, organic, original potentialityness, meaning you've erased all of the programming and conditioning or the propensity for that or the little velcro stickies on you that attracted that to you. And that's only a tiny part of it, because and you are the new expansive human and potentiality of what is now being grown, created, invented, coming into fruition. Does that it's a big thing, and it's important to be distinct about it, yet it's an uncontainerizable quotient. But
Well, I feel like I'm paying very close attention to myself most of the time. I mean, let's face it, there are times when I just stare out the window and don't pay attention to anything. But for so yeah, I'm feeling like almost everyone on the planet at this point, even if they've never really paid very close attention to themselves in times past, had they had everyone on the planet had the opportunity to hear you say what you just said, I feel within me probably would there be some resonance, even if they don't quite understand all of what you said, there would be some resonance there, because I do feel, I mean, I
That's the innate I speak of.
okay,
You
because I'm
innately know this
yeah,
already.
yes,
Yeah. You've
right,
been
because it does,
suppressing
right,
but
it does feel like,
to choose this other game. Just like getting back to your candy experience. That's all just an invitation to play small, that you have, that something is disappointing or that you have a problem. I mean, that's all anything is. And you could entertain it from that perspective, from the set point that you're small and you have a problem. Or you could know your own power and ability to create and to have and to be and to do anything and everything in an
right,
unlimited fashion.
right.
can we stop for just, I'm getting nudged to use
Yeah.
that as just one jumping off point right there. So really like how the the picture that was set up there as a jumping off point. So because I'm trying to make it's a huge subject. It's not
Yeah.
linear at all. It's multidimensional. It comes and directly affects your happiness, your abundance on all measures, linearly, tangibly, as well as everything else, what we're
Right.
speaking of. So I want
Yeah.
to keep going from the trueness of it to the linear, so maybe it will help. So what you just said there, Lisa and Sheila, is a very good place to start with for a moment. That when you intentionally, and at first it may seem like more work, more time, more investment, in various ranges, people may say, yes. And if you want to be unlimited, um, all potentialities, all possibilities that are linearly showing up at your doorstep, or calling on your phone, or sending you a text, or sending you an email, or hey, we got a delivery for you, of amazing things,
Yes.
then I think it's fair to say you're going to want to spend the time to do this, because anything that is not in this vein, is not in this frequency flow, is not in this consciousness driven derivative and um, arrangement, is born of and outside of the neutral zone. So it's of the old, and it will not stand. It won't work. It won't kind of work. It won't sort of work. It won't just go on the track for a little while and you'll get some stuff out of it. None of those things. So to go back to what you guys just set up, is that if you if you're in a space to choose whatever, it could be small or the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
where you want, or you're choosing to Maybe you have no idea what it is. Okay, all right. I hear we're in the new. I need a new. I'm not waiting to get to the new earth. I'm already here. Okay, that's a news flash. Maybe, maybe not. Um, all potentials are there for me. Okay, maybe that's a news flash. Maybe, maybe not. Right, wherever you are,
Hmm.
then play in this stuff. But when you're playing, you play in the neutral zone. You play from the place of the neutral zone, of the 0
Yeah.
point, and then you
Yeah.
move forward from there, and you
Yeah.
gauge it every day. And what's happening is, oh, I know you were talking about, Lisa, the candy and all that thing, but you you choose or not to do that. You notice or not to do that. You're open or not to that.
Yeah.
Only you can do it, and only you can choose, because in your choosing, you create worlds, literally, absolutely, substantively. So you can touch it, you can see it, you create and magnetize things that will come to you, people, events, opportunities, products, tangible things, right? You're also creating all the intangible things. You're creating all the feeling things and all the physical, emotional things as well. But you have to choose it. You've got to do it and orchestrate it and put the time in. I use that loosely, but the actual, if you're in linear mindset, the time in, where it's sitting on a porch steps, or walking in a certain place, or just being quiet, or doing a whole whatever that is for you, a meditation thing, or writing a certain thing. So it takes all of those times, and it may be, if you're gone from a place of being unconscious, on autopilot, not paying attention, if you're honest with yourself about whatever the hell, you're just doing the thing, you're just going through the moves, you're just kind of autopiloting through. So if you're shifting that, you may seem for the first bit that your day, you're going to have to get up a lot earlier in the morning and go to bed later at night to get everything accomplished, because what you're putting your attention and your energy and your creational force and your, moving your legs enough times, to do it, or doing enough things, there's an awful lot of that that's not generating you anything. It's just autopilot, on in going through the moves, and it's can be erased from your schedule. But since you're attached to it right this moment, maybe because it's the only thing you know, you're not willing to let go of that. Stop. You're not willing to let go of that. Get in here now. Now. We don't do that. We don't do it. It's rude, and we don't do it. Um, Maybe you're not willing to let go of that right this moment. Then you just add the other stuff to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've been trying to find something, because I feel I've been feeling the whole time you're speaking, I'm seeing this in my head, and I know it's out there for me to find it. Um, the whole time you were speaking, all I keep being shown is the toroidal field, and how we continually are, we are that brand new thing all the time. Like you said, I've felt like
And ever expanding. And so if we had
yeah,
3 personal assistants, and I'm, and we had someone who did technical specs for us, whatever it is that you're doing, you can think of, I mean, you could tell me a whole bunch of things. Well, my thing is this, and I could say, yeah, these different people to do these different things, right? Someone who keeps your car running and fine-tune things, someone who helps you organize things in your house, all those different things. So, and you may be doing all of those things, but when you're creating from 0 point, it is seemingly effortless, because all of the ingredients, or the know-how, or the energy, or it's lots of different components, are all there and at your disposal, and working in this amazing flow and synchronicity and pull in linear words, efficiency, right? And it's, someone comes up and they're going to detail your car, and then someone else is delivering the groceries, and someone else is helping you not only put them away, but let's organize this a different way. All these different things, because there are not the mind clutter things. There are not the programming derailing things. They're not the stuckness. They're not the, okay, go real linear for a minute, the bloody loops in your head that are going around and and you've wasted the whole day. Not only that, but it's taken all the energy out of you and
Yeah.
derailed you from different things.
Yeah, yeah, and you've just created more of that for
Well, yeah,
tomorrow.
that goes
What
without
you're
saying.
doing today creates your experience tomorrow.
I didn't
You're
want to
setting,
depress anybody too much.
Well, which
yeah,
is
well, you're setting synchronicities for tomorrow. And so
That's
if you're looking at the synchronicities and going, wait, I'm heading in the wrong direction, that's a good thing. Because then you can say, okay, so what direction do I want to go? Where am I? And get yourself into the neutral so that you can create the life of your dreams. Let's make no mistake, we're creating constantly.
right.
And if you aren't doing it consciously, then you know it's unconscious. And I'm really starting to grok Hopono Ono for the first time, I think, because I've been asking for forgiveness for my unconscious behavior to absolutely everything that will listen to me. And honestly, I'm realizing how unconscious my behavior has been by asking forgiveness. And because of that, I am more and more conscious.
Right.
And you know what? More and more things go the way I want them to. I innately want certain things, and I'm acting contrary to my own nature
Yes.
by doing this other programmed thing. And
Yes.
so you're right, BZ. It actually is easier to go and follow your innate. It is much harder work to suppress who you really are and fit this beautiful, square or tetrahedron into some tiny little flat box that we don't fit in the first place. That's what's been draining us. That's
Yeah.
what's been creating
Perpetually training us. Yeah.
all the
Really good.
experiences we don't wish to create. So, yeah, I guess that's it.
One thing I think that's a kind of a summation, or maybe a really tangible, cogent, okay, it's on fire and will burn you if you're not listening to it point, is that um, at first, until you're really in the flow of it, and it may be in the flow of it for 5 minutes, and then you're and then in the flow of it and you're out,
That's
but
me.
that's okay,
I
because
keep falling asleep.
if you got even the 5 seconds, you're much improved than where you were a moment ago. Okay, so
Yeah,
great. Okay, and it'll change,
celebrate that.
right?
Right.
Absolutely celebrate it. But what I wanted to really highlight is that in form, it actually is outside of form and non-embodiedness as well. But in form, we'll narrow, small it down for that for a minute. In form, a conscious creator being, and I'm using linear terms because they don't hold with a broader perspective, work really hard. They are paying attention, they're intentional, they are noticing, they've got a billion balls in the air, and all of the potentiality and the possibilities, they're floating with them, and they're organized, and so they're working really hard, right? And that you'll notice that at first.
Yeah.
and and at the exact same moments, it is seamless, effortless, absolutely in the flow, and one giant ocean. So every molecule of water, every thread of light, everything that is completely connected. So in the ocean, not only the water, but all the life, all the
A little lovely musical interlude for our enjoyment.
yeah. And
Absolutely.
my phone isn't letting me tell them to go away. Um, all of those things at the same moment. So it's exactly this, the you're working very hard and very specific and very focused and very intentional, and there is no work at all. It's magical, it's seamless, it's out of the blue, right? It's just in time delivery, and not only is it just in time delivery, but there's on the clipboard of the delivery, I'm trying to be linear, is a notice that, hey, we not only have all your products delivered right here, but and we have, you're just about to say, oh, and I want to create this, right? Like maybe if it's Sheila, I'm going super linear for me. If it's Sheila, and she's just got the new eyes for the octopi and different yarns, right? And so the delivery person shows up. Here you go, ma'am. Here's your, 52 million skeins of yarn and boxes of eyes for your octopi. We got it all here, right? And you look at the thing, and there's a note that highlights that really lights up for you, and it says, and we have this new kind of thing and this new sort of resource here because you're just about to fully download or fully be inspired by this new thing. Maybe it's a dancing octopi thing. And we have all of those ingredients that you may want as well. And the truck is loaded as soon as you give the whistle. It'll leave the depot bay where it got loaded up and be arriving to you. Does that make sense? It's kind of funny intentionally, but that's how it works.
Mhm.
And so if you think about it from a just you in the chair living sort of thing, if you're in a job and you want to move to a new job or create a new job or start a business, whatever it is, that as you're doing what I'm talking about, these things are lining up, and you have someone who your own personal, if it's a job thing, your own personal headhunter goes and finds the right position for you. And not only that, but sees a company or a sector of business that you're interested in working as an employee, right? And says, okay, that's great. This is great. But this isn't going to work for my client, you, very well. So we need to rearrange this job and actually make a new position. And these are all the requirements for it. Your headhunter is doing this for you. They create that, and then they come to you and say, what do you think about that? And you say, yeah, look at that. It is that practical and linear and tangible and showing up right in your experience that I'm talking about when you come from and incorporate all the way from the no form pre-matter template area all the way down from the highest consciousness all the way down to the right in front of you. I can touch it, I can look at it, I can pick up my measuring tape, I can take out my calculator and say, okay, that's going to cost me this or bring me this, or this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
But
No,
we need to put the work into it or not. And the choices are unlimited, absolute, fantastical, amazing, better than we could have ever in our widest picture think that was there, or we're in the crumbling and the kind of repeating loop of the crumbling in the old system. So this would be not quite accurate, but it's a very good way to feel into. It's you're a choice choosing of the bifurcation that a lot of beings are talking about right now
Yeah.
of these two energies.
Yes.
And one is going down and will cease to exist along with you in a physical form of that as well, but you'll just keep going in the flames until it plays itself out. And
Yeah.
then you choose to, to go into something in a new version, a new physicality, and start again.
You're making me think of something, BZ, that I have noticed lately. Um, so I started I'm gonna say circa 2008, 2009 in there. I was really thinking in terms of changing my everything. I just woke up to nothing I'm doing works for me anymore. It makes no sense at all, but I didn't know how to get to where I wanted to be from where I was. And this is about the time I began noticing that I was giving all my power away. And so I began taking my power back. And for me, I'm going to say it started with the medical stuff, because was fresh out of my medical education. I was trained to work as an XMT, and it's a whole new program that was designed to work in the urgent care setting. So you could do everything from assisting the doctor to the x-rays to, checking them in, checking them out, to cleaning the toilets. So you literally did everything there at the urgent care. And when, why am I talking about the urgent care? Hang on, I lost my thread.
I can tell you that's
Yeah.
where you woke up to. What you were
Yes.
doing was not good for you.
No, oh my goodness, what I learned there in the medical, right? And so, and I was having such medical issues, but I was so disillusioned by learning how it all works. I knew that it would be not in my best interest to turn.
Uh-oh, wait. You're mute. Something happened and you muted. Okay, please continue.
Okay.
Would not be in my best interest to turn
the care for my health, my well-being over to any of these people.
I feel you.
It would kill you.
I had to figure out then. So, okay, I realized, wow, I gave a lot of power over my life to these people. And I didn't really realize that at first. It was kind of slow to me how I realized that this situation I was in with the doctors and my health in general was a complete, it was me. I did that. I gave them the power to tell me what to do, and then I did what they said. That's what I did. And I had to fully take responsibility for my role in the game in order to fix what I had done. So I had to ask myself, well, so now what are you going to do? And honestly, I had no idea. But yet innately, I knew exactly what to do. So by taking my power back, right? I had to turn inward and say, okay, so what are you gonna do? And I immediately heard the word research. And I was like, well, yeah, I can read. I'm not a dunce. So let's look up, and I started with the situations I was dealing with. Let's look up digestion and fungus and things that I had a systemic fungal infection that was taking me out. But because I had already turned my focus into this is my problem, not Dr. So-and-so's problem or riddle to solve. It became my very own. And so by taking that power back and turning my focus and attention on me, I actually healed something that I had been working with my doctor for a year trying to help heal my body. And I actually got it under control within a few months and healed myself completely within 1 year's time of
It's
this
never come
fungal.
back. It's never come back.
No.
Right.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No follow-up visits because
No.
yes. And,
I
and
got
that's
to,
totally different than the way, because why? For whole other reasons, but not to go into that whole subject. But the only thing I'll say is the reason it's totally different from that is because there's nothing wrong with the medical system. There's nothing wrong with the doctors. There's nothing wrong with the way they set it up. It actually having to keep coming back, having to say a recurrence or a re this or whatever it was, is exactly the way it was
that was
designed.
this, that
Exactly the program, exactly the script, and that is the outside of the neutral zone and the old way. And that's a beautiful example of what
yes.
you're talking about.
Okay, so that's the first example of me taking my power back. And I wanted to give that linear explanation because really that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about looking for ways or noticing ways in which, for me, I was giving my power away externally. Now, that was one tiny aspect of it. In reality, my relationship with everything external to me was based on that fraud you're speaking of. And so I had to go into the neutral zone, right? And create what was authentically my own truth, because suddenly I could see the fraud in everything. What I also noticed about the fraud in general, let me just say, is that by the act of noticing, I noticed myself withdrawing from these said systems, and it was one at a time. Because, like, at first, it was really just, well, I would say religion, actually. Um,
That's
so
usually
we'll
that's
start
usually the
there.
first one to go.
From that one first. But then I turned, right? I didn't go within. No, I turned for, okay, who's the next authority? And, who's going to, fix things for us now? And then I was willing to help the fixing. Don't get me wrong. I was, going to put my boots on and put my gloves on and dig in. But I really thought somebody else was leading the brigade. So I want to say I was still under some misnomers moving forward. But because I continued to look for ways I was giving my power away and finding ways to take it back quickly, um, has led me to notice something. I noticed that the more I disengage from plugging in over here, right, and just saying, okay, this is what I do. I just plug in, and they give me what I need. By unplugging all that and plugging into my own self and beginning to generate from within my own experience, I began to notice crumbling and dismantling of the systems. And the more I do so, the less this crumbling affects me in any kind of demonstrable 3D, physical, in my world kind of way, which is exactly really, I'm so glad I'm doing this now, because what BZ was talking about earlier, um, not creating a void is like paramount here. And so by my disengaging over there, unplugging my hooks from something external and plugging it back into my own power source and acknowledging my own self, right? I am now creating all of those systems, if you will, organically, authentically, originally, all on my own. So there's no requirement for these systems to be up and running. There just isn't. And whether they're up or running is irregardless to me, because I am not plugged in and it has nothing to do with me. I'm busy over here creating my own, generating my own reality. My own needs are being met. And I am not affected, bothered, upset, touched by any of that in any way that is harmful or uncomfortable to me. So I highly recommend joining me because these systems will only linger as long as people are plugged in and being fed by it. And when that happens, when the displugging, when the last person unplugs, there's just nothing there. And actually, there is nothing there now, to be fair. But by the act of you plugging it in, see, now you're sort of creating it to be alive in this moment now, because without your plugging in, it would just dissolve and go away.
And
So,
and worse than that. So by
yeah.
your plugging in, if you haven't, and I'm pretty willing to bet you've already seen and felt, it biting you in the ass a lot, right? That you're that's that shock to wake up. Wake up. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Right? Sort of a thing. When you
Yep.
put in it's to entice you to let go of something that is an anathema to the truth of who you are, that is poison to the very existence, not just a tangible linear in this thing, but the very existence of the frequency being that you are. And it's time to wake up from it, but it's an inside job, so you have to do it. You can keep going off in a tumble in your own death spiral down that, or and separate in the bifurcation, separate yourself from the rest that is going in that direction. And it's a choice. And part of that, you'll geez Louise, part of that you will see is that in that death spiral, you will have firmly, because you've chosen. Maybe you're not looking at it as a choice, but you're the one who's at the helm, because you're the one who's taking the actions, who's making the decisions, who's daily not paying attention, who's daily continuing to be on autopilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've made the choice that I'm not comfortable yet. I'm not ready yet to be conscious. I'm not ready yet to shift and expand my consciousness and come into the truth of who I am. And so the road I've chosen to take, and this is where everybody is in that, is in 26,000 years, kid you not, hit me up again and we'll see if I'm ready then.
Well,
Let that sink in for a moment, because that is tangible, multidimensional, the way that it actually works. It's no good or bad, it's no right or wrong, it's perfect the way it is. But if you hadn't kind of, you thought, well, maybe you wait till you get the memo, or someone delivered something to you from an old way, you can make a choice then. It doesn't work.
in all the time that we've been together, you've said that a lot, BZ, and I'm not, I don't know why, but I'm not sure. I think I know why you say that. Is it has to do with the precession of the equinoxes and that sort of thing, right? Time cycles and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because I got to be honest with you, for me, and I know that it's different for each of us, and I expect that, and that sort of thing. But for me, I've kind of felt like I've gone to the spot for myself, and whether I'm right or wrong is really immaterial, but it's how I feel about it. I don't think any of us really make any wrong choices. From
Right.
one
They're not.
perspective we do, but on another perspective we don't. And so I for me, I'm not certain about the whole cycle thing. And I don't know that it makes any difference. I'm just saying that because I don't know that. I don't know that about the cycles or anything. And I don't want, first of all, most of the folks that are going to be hearing this now, or even in the future, if they should happen to find it, are on their path to discovering their consciousness.
Right.
So I don't want to give the impression, if you get this, 2 months from now, you think you've missed the boat. For me, that there is none of that. And it's no missing any kind of boat, because
It's your boat.
Right, on the most expansive level, maybe not the right up here in the forefront of my consciousness, but on the most expansive level of me, that portion of me that set all of this up, who actually plucked me up and put me in this house, who actually, nudged me to try to have that, little gathering that we had that brought Lisa to me. And then, those sorts of things, that portion of me, right, has got it all in hand. And so if if I've chosen to align with my soul and allow my soul to take the driver's seat, which I feel like I have, um, I'm not being concerned about the whole cycles of timing thing. For me, that's just a for me kind of thing.
Well, and all souls have they've been around. They came out of the soup of source at different times. So what they're wanting to do and experience and learn is different, is unique. That's the whole idea. So
Right.
if a soul has come out of just soup of source, and they've had the chance to go through whatever that time, time is not the right word, but we'll say time that they did, and they've got, and then another being, creation of force, came out of the soup of source different. They don't have the same experience. They haven't played in the same ways, right? And been able to, one is not good or badder than the other, right? To use poor,
Right.
really bad linear English, right? It just is
Yeah.
where they are.
Yep. Well, and I wanted to say this too, about that. For me, I asked, my guidance about it, and what I got was this: that the universe is a sentient being, and it has free will, and it has granted all the inhabitants, or however you want to label us all here, um, the same. And going in, the game of domination and control was the name of the game. And now this universe has experienced all there is to experience with that game and is finished with it. And I said, okay. And they said, and I said, but when does it all end for me? I mean, let's just get serious. I'm asking about my life. And when is it all gonna,
When is this crap done? I'm over this now.
please, because otherwise I want to go home or something. So that's how I was feeling. And it was explained to me that the game of domination and control needs to be experienced in every way until it is completely played out in the individual. And the individual must unbind and unwind it, meaning complete the game, to never choose it again from an experiential point of view. And that made total sense to me. So just like what BZ was saying there, we weren't all born in the same nanosecond, and we don't all have the same experiences by design, so that each can have their own trajectory and route. So I do know that there are some souls who are just embarking on the game of domination and
That's right.
control, and they must now,
Hence the
because we're here,
26,000-year loop.
through it in order to be finished.
It just
So
won't be
I
here.
would
It won't
imagine,
be here.
I see that. Okay. Thank you for
That
that.
makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's not like, the super source, everything didn't just pop out and there's all these, it's
Right.
because it's eternal. So they're popping out all over the time, right?
Well, this is just keeps coming for me. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment. Everybody knows I use the toroidal field. I found this little GIF here recently.
oh, I like that.
I do too. And I have to say that, okay, so
Okay.
for me, while we're all looking at this, I would like to share with you this. Then this came in during that whole trippy experience that I've shared on camera a couple of times. Being in the presence of the universe a gigantic this, what you're seeing on the screen right now, and grokking to the core of me that this is what we are at every level, the micro, the macro. The universe is the toroidal field. We are the toroidal field. Each one of our cells is the toroidal field. And as that energy moves around, in and around, all of it, from the, like I said, the furthest macro to the tiniest micro, it's self-organizing. It
Yes.
is self-perpetuating.
And
It is,
self-choosing.
yeah, it's continually expanding. There's no, the only contraction that I could sense at that point is what pulls back in to go back out again, is what I experienced. And I had felt for a long time that which we as humans tend to, assign persona and you know, well, yeah, human persona actually to source or God or whatever, because, we get that from the Bible. All of us got exposed to that, whether we believe it or not. We were all exposed to that. And it's easier to relate to something if you can put a face on it, put a beard on it, put it in a chair in the sky and say it's dad, everybody. So, but there's none of that. There really is none of that in life as a whole, as it were. The, like I said, the self-perpetuating, ever moving and transforming energy in and out of form, right?
Ever
Always.
expanding, yeah. Can you throw that picture up one more time?
Sure, absolutely.
Because it's you can see it in there if you look, but I just want to point it out. So what I was talking about, where you're in the 0 point, where you have down from the energy, you can see the energy here is feeding up from Gaia. If we look at this as an embodied human on the planet, just one example.
Right.
This is great for all things. But you see the energy coming up from Gaia and it's feeding and flowing, right? And then you see the energy coming down from source, and also, there's a two-way street, right? And you see right here in the heart, it's coming out, right? So this is when you're in the 0 point here, which is this energy coming in, this energy coming up. You could say anchoring from grounding from here and anchoring from source, and then your heart point, and these is you in that neutral zone, all these threads, right, that are creating intentionally when you've set the I think it's funny that it's speeding up when I was doing this, but you can turn it off now. That part coming from the heart is you sending out the resources, the call for magnetizing whatever it is that you're creating, and it's coming back into you, right? When you're not choosing to do that, when you're anything created outside of the neutral zone, you is just I'm sorry, the video I just got was pretty funny. It's just you as a human being, all the pretty colors and lights and everything else are all gone, and it's you going, why me? Why isn't this working? Or life shouldn't be this hard. Right. You're right. It shouldn't be. And so you've taken, if you take that image and you're creating outside of the neutral zone, take away all the color, all the energy flow, all the movement, all the synchronicities, all of that beautiful warp and weave and dance and flow and syncopation of what is the trueness of you is gone. Yeah. And it's a very static, very robotized, very autopilot, automaton sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And that will continue to exist, as Lisa said, to bring in the way her description, until you, as an inside job in that being, in that part of the super source that came out and created your signature frequency, whether you're in this body or have gone into another, until you have played it out.
Mhm.
Hence, one description is the 26,000 years, at least, right? So it just is. Now, if you're thinking that you want to do these things and you're fixing to create intentionally, or you're fixing to start noticing things, or but well, you don't understand, I got this, or you don't understand, now is a really good time, not because I said so, we're having this conversation, because it just is, because this is where the energies are, and what the energies are supporting, and what the energies and your soul and source are not judging in any way, shape, or form, are not demanding, they're just supporting. And when you say, oh, wow, this, I don't understand it all, but this feels right to me, I'm going to now choose. I'm going to be intentional about my energy. I'm going to be intentional about paying attention. I'm going to be intentional about figuring out what the neutral zone is, what the 0 point is, and creating from that, even if it's for a nanosecond, and then a nanosecond, right? And it gets bigger, because that feels like it to me. Then all those other things that there is no right or wrong are going, yay, because now they can flood all of that love in an even greater way, all of that assistance, all of that jubilant vibration and guidance and wherewithal to come to you. And all of you can rejoice in the sparks that come forth. And if you say, no, I'm waiting, or no, I'm seeing, or no, but you don't understand, and then you're still getting it another way. It's just now going to be commensurate with where you're ready. And neither is good or bad. Neither, it's just simply is you.
Yep. Well, I sure have. Not only have I appreciated this conversation, it went in a totally different direction for me than I expected. So I love it when that happens.
Well, and it's just the beginning of a very big conversation, and we can have lots of, how do you do it if you're starting your own business, or how do you do it if you're deciding if you want to move, or how do you do it if you're, picking a job, or how do you do it with things you want to start to play within, excuse me, superpowers. So, but the biggest, just, it's kind of just a very cursory look at
Right.
being alive, living life in HD.
I like that. Living life in HD. She really feels like that. Well, did either of you have anything else you'd like to add to this one before we put this one in the can?
Comment and subscribe, and if you like the idea and want to play with, specific channels of it, different sections, let us know.
Yeah, I would love that. I think that would be very interesting to hear from everyone what they'd like to hear more about on that subject. Absolutely. Lisa, how about you? Anything you'd like to add?
No, just thanks for playing. This was a great conversation. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, me too. Well, as like BZ said, if you're watching this on her channel, if you're watching it over here on Conscious Conversation Central, please make sure to subscribe to both places, because BZ does, she hasn't had a lot of time recently, but she does have her own channel, and she does put things out that I do not. So make sure that you're subscribed to both places, and make sure to hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified. If YouTube feels like it, you'll get notified. If they don't, and we're being shadow banned that particular day, then you won't be notified. I'm just saying, it happens all the time, because I hear about it all the time. And but do make sure to at least hit that notification bell. Also, I haven't been saying this lately, but I'm going to today. Make sure to hit like, and if you did, and share if you feel so led, because that apparently will help. Again, if YouTube feels like putting us in the algorithms, it helps it spread around. So thanks everybody. And thank you two so much.
Yeah. Until next time, much love.
Yes. Choose joy.
Yep.